Heyo, I'm Vero, also known as Peanuts personally on Royal Road, Pixiv, Inkit, and Scribblehub. Before we get into lots of droney yapping, wanted to say that it's unlikely I'll write on the backstory scenario that is about to be discussed. So, thought to talk it out here. This Gem AI podcast deep dives into Anri's backstory that led him to the Conclave. In the game, the Inquisitor is a blank slate, ensuring the RPG customization for player. But my player character couldn't be a blank for the fanfiction. So I devised a backstory for Anri Lavellan and the kind of elf he was prior to being the Herald of Andraste. I'm hoping the backstory discussed is believable with plausible reasons, especially for his clan being at Wycombe. It pays to note that, like everything else AI, generated outputs are prone to hallucinations. Surprisingly, this pod is mostly on point. However, Dashana is a man in the Resonance story. Additional context about Anri's loyal Tempmerk band. They began to see the blind prejudice Anri faced just because of his race. Since they got to know him well and revere him, they started to see his shithole of troubles piling up on him. When he was pulled out of the breach, his second in command at the time had been guarding his cell in disguise and listening in to Leliana and Cassandra's talk while Anri napped. He overheard that they were going to execute Anri after they questioned him upon waking. Naturally, he was troubled, because this elf saved him and his Merc brothers, saw their job a success and gold in their pockets, and had even lined up work for them once the conclave was over. Although that business deal would have fell through. So his second was cooking up ways to pay Anri back for his life. Anri's temporary mercenary band were among the soldiers who went with Cullen to the ruined Temple of Sacred Ashes, where Anri fought the Pride Demon using his Fade Anchor for the first time. To Anri, he was grateful to fight with familiar faces, not realizing they were there to back him up. His second saw the moment for the full payback when Anri closed the breach. He blurted loudly that he was like the Herald of Andraste to his friends. They got the hint and talked loudly among each other about it, knowing they'd be overheard for gossip to spread. And it spread. However, when Anri woke back at Haven, his second and most of the Merc band was gone. Only a couple had stayed to be part of the Inquisition. He read a note from his second saying that he hoped he wasn't mad for yelling out that he was the Herald of Andraste. Anri was given context that he was going to be executed at first. His second had worried that even after he managed to seal the breach, they'd still go through with it. As he didn't trust the Chantry to support Anri, so he did the only thing he felt he could do within his means to give him some protection. He gave him a title. Anyway, thank you for sticking through this and the rest of the podcast. I hope everyone enjoys it and checks out Dragon Age Resonance on Royal Road.
When you hear the title Herald of Andraste, you probably picture this flawless marble statue, right? Like a divine savior chosen by the heavens.
Right, a destiny written in the stars.
Exactly. You imagine prophecies and this grand cosmic design. But if you actually dig into the hidden early history of Anri Lavellan, the foundation of that legend is completely different.
Oh, it is wildly different.
I mean, he only became a holy icon because he was desperately trying to dodge a death warrant from his bitter human ex-boyfriend.
It is honestly the ultimate historical accident.
It really is.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into this deeply personal, just remarkably chaotic origin story. We're going to piece together the exact chain of events that accidentally forged a savior.
And we are pulling all of this directly from Dragon Age Resonance, right?
Yes. Our focus is on the specific timeline laid out in Dragon Age Resonance, zeroing in on Anri Lavellan's life right up through the era when his clan was forced to flee to Wycombe.
Which, spoiler alert, completely dismantles that pristine marble statue version of history we just talked about.
Completely shatters it. We're going to walk you through the exact mechanisms of how a localized, messy scandal in a small town inadvertently created the savior of Thetis.
It is such a wild trajectory, but to really get how insane this is, we have to ground ourselves in the reality of where Anri started. So we are in the Free Marches, near a minor human settlement, Conclave town.
Right. And the geopolitical climate in the Free Marches at this time is incredibly volatile. I mean, the Mage Rebellion is just beginning to break out across the continent.
Which means everyone is terrified.
Exactly. When we talk about a Mage Rebellion, we aren't just talking about distant political friction. We are talking about immediate localized paranoia. Every minor lord, every local militia, they are terrified of magic.
So violence and suspicion are just spilling over into everyday life everywhere.
Yeah, and right in the middle of this paranoid landscape, you have Clan Lavellan. They are a Dalish elf clan, and their entire survival strategy in this world, a world dominated by human politics, is to remain completely invisible.
Just stay out of the way.
Right. So Anri and his older brother Denerason are serving as scouts for the clan, and their job isn't to fight. It is strictly perimeter defense.
Like, they survey the wilderness just to make sure the clan stays hidden from all this unfolding human chaos?
Exactly. But Anri observes a situation that basically forces his hand. While he's out scouting, he comes across a squad of Thanetown guards who are being violently overwhelmed by a group of mad mages.
Oh, wow. So the rebellion has essentially landed right on their doorstep.
It has, and these guards are completely outmatched. It is a sheer life or death scenario.
And, like, Anri could easily just melt back into the trees, right? I mean, it's the safest move for his claim.
It is the logical move, yeah.
But he doesn't. He leverages his stealth skills, enters the fray, neutralizes the mages, and literally saves the entire guard squad.
He does. And this squad happens to be led by Guard Captain Allen, who is a 25-year-old human.
And Alan is just stunned by this intervention.
Oh, completely. He offers Anri a reward, but Anri just brushes it off. He literally says, doing the right thing is a reward, and then he just leaves.
Classic reluctant hero line.
Right. But you have to view that moment through Alan's perspective. Here is a guard captain trying to hold his town together in a world that is currently tearing itself apart with fear and self-interest.
Yeah, everyone is out for themselves.
Exactly. So to encounter someone who just drops out of the trees, saves his life, asks for nothing, and operates on pure altruism, it's an absolute shot to the heart.
Oh, he falls hard.
Alan falls in love at first sight. He becomes entirely infatuated with this mysterious elf.
But, like, he's a guard captain with an actual militia at his disposal. He doesn't just, write a wistful journal entry about the elf who got away.
No, he actively deploys his resources. He starts sending human scouts out into the wilderness to track down the clan, trying to find Anri.
Which immediately puts Keeper Deshana and the rest of the Dalish elves on high alert, right? Because human guards prowling around their encampment is literally their worst-case scenario.
It is a nightmare for them. The whole machinery of Dalish survival relies on distance. Once a human settlement knows where you are, the threat of persecution or forced relocation is immediate.
Wait, so if the whole point of being Dalish is staying hidden from human politics, why wouldn't the clan just pack up the Aravels and bolt into the night the second they spot human guards sneaking around?
That's a totally fair question.
Because engaging with a guard captain seems incredibly reckless.
It does seem reckless, but you have to consider the logistics. Moving an entire, heavily burdened clan through the wilderness while trained human scouts are actively surveilling you.
Oh, you'd leave a massive trail.
Exactly, you risk an ambush. So Anri takes a highly targeted, if dangerous, approach. He and a few other hunters actually step out of the shadows and confront the town guards directly.
Talk about taking the initiative.
Yeah, Anri demands to know why they're being stalked. He's essentially drawing a line in the sand.
He goes straight to the source to neutralize the threat. And he agrees to meet with Alan, but lays down a strict condition: leave my family alone.
Right. And when the meeting actually happens, Anri is bracing for hostility or like a military interrogation.
But instead, Alan is deeply apologetic.
He is. He admits he just wanted to get to know Anri. The dynamic completely shifts.
Anri realizes this isn't a military maneuver at all, it's a romantic pursuit.
Yeah. And to keep the town's attention and military resources away from the clan's encampment, Anri figures the most pragmatic move is to just humor the guard captain.
So he agrees to occasional secret meetings.
Right. And what begins as a protective measure for his family gradually morphs into genuine intimacy. Alan is described as gentle and highly protective. He even gives Anri the pet name, his maiden.
Wow. So it's a fascinating diplomatic mission that turns into a real relationship.
He really is.
And the turning point comes during one of these secret meetings when they are ambushed by local bandits. During this skirmish, Alan literally takes an arrow that was meant for Anri.
Yeah, that is a visceral display of commitment.
Seriously. After they patch up their wounds, the pretense just drops. They fall deeply in love and end up dating in secret for nearly an entire year.
And a year is a remarkably long time to maintain a clandestine relationship of this magnitude.
Right, because you have a Dalish elf and a human guard captain navigating a secret romance right under the nose of a paranoid human town.
Especially during a period of intense political instability. It requires an immense amount of operational security. But inevitably, secrets in small, tense communities erode.
Which brings us to the disastrous fallout. The affair is exposed, and it triggers a massive scandal that completely rocks Thanetown.
It blows up. And the mechanism driving this scandal isn't just prejudice against elves, though, that's definitely part of it.
Oh, for sure.
The primary explosive element is that Alan was already spoken for. He had a fiancée.
And not just anyone. She was a local lord's daughter.
Right. This is where the power dynamics become incredibly volatile. A guard captain marrying a lord's daughter is a significant social and political alignment.
So for Alan to be caught carrying on a year-long affair with the Dalish elf isn't just a personal betrayal to his fiancée. It is a profound humiliation to a noble house.
Exactly. And the fiancée is enraged to the point of militarization. She actually mobilizes a group of her family's warriors with the explicit goal of marching out to, quote, deal with the Dalish upstart.
She is bringing a private army to wipe out Anri and his clan.
It is a terrifying escalation. And Clan Lavellan is entirely unequipped to handle a private human army.
But fate steps in with a brutal, chaotic twist, doesn't it?
It does. On their way to execute this revenge, the fiancée and her warriors are besieged by rogue mages.
The very same spillover from the Mage Rebellion that Anri saved Alan from a year prior.
Yes, the exact same threat. And in the ensuing confrontation, the Lord's daughter is killed.
Wow. It is a nightmare scenario for Alan.
Complete nightmare.
The daughter of a minor lord is dead. And even though Anri had absolutely nothing to do with the rogue mage attack, the entire chain of events points directly back to their affair.
Alan is staring down the wrath of the local nobility, and he knows exactly how they will respond. He anticipates the political machinery of the Chantry.
Because Thanetown is already on edge.
Right. If the Chantry zealots learn that a lord's daughter was killed by rogue mages, and that the town's own guard captain was fraternizing with a Dalish elf.
Because elves are heavily associated with unregulated magic in their eyes.
Exactly. The Chantry will label Thanetown a heretic haven. The response wouldn't just be an investigation. It would be a violent purge of the entire settlement.
So faced with the destruction of his town and his own execution, Alan panics. And the way he chooses to survive is just gut-wrenching.
It really is.
He deflects all the blame for the tragedy squarely onto Anri. He publicly claims that the Dalish elf used magic to enchant him.
It is the ultimate betrayal, executed with chilling efficiency.
Right. So cold.
Alan weaponizes the pre-existing systemic prejudice against elven magic to instantly clear his own name.
Yeah.
He provides the nobility and the Chantry with a convenient, culturally acceptable scapegoat.
It's a lethal cover-up. It's like a corporate embezzlement scandal where the executive blames the unpaid intern. But in this world, the consequence is a brutal execution.
The stakes are life and death.
Right. By falsely claiming enchantment, Alan places a definitive death sentence on his former lover.
Yep.
Anri is now actively being hunted by local law enforcement and religious zealots for a crime he didn't commit. How does a single elf survive the full weight of human justice bearing down on him?
It requires an intervention of extreme pragmatism, provided by Keeper Deshana. She understands the sociological reality of the free marches.
There's no fighting this.
None. There is no court of appeals for a Dalish elf accused of blood magic by a human guard captain. So to save Anri from immediate execution, Deshana makes a drastic, calculated decision.
She sends Anri to the Divine Conclave.
Yes.
And this detail from Dragon Age Resonance completely recontextualizes the history we all know. When we think of the Herald of Andraste arriving at the Conclave, the assumption is that they were sent on some grand, holy mission as an emissary.
But Deshana sends him there as a desperate hiding spot.
Right. The goal is to get Anri as far away as possible until the local tensions in Thanetown cool down. And while he's there, maybe he can gather some useful intelligence on the Mage-Templar War.
It is a brilliant tactical maneuver. I mean, the Divine Conclave is a massive geopolitical summit designed to broker peace. It will be swarming with thousands of dignitaries, clerics, Templars, mages, and mercenaries from all over the continent.
So the sheer bureaucracy and chaos of that crowd becomes the ultimate camouflage for a fugitive.
Exactly. An elf could easily blend into the background noise of such a monumental event.
It's like a wanted criminal joining a massive, chaotic military deployment just to get lost in the ranks.
That is exactly what it is.
But the emotional toll of this escape on the clan has to be heavy. I mean, Daenerys, Anri's older brother, desperately wants to go with him.
Right, they are a scouting team. They protect each other.
But Anri has to convince Daenerys to stay behind. Because while Anri is running south to the Frogback Mountains, the rest of Clan Lavellan has to pack up their entire lives and travel as far north as Wycombe just to escape the fallout of the scandal.
The clan is entirely fractured. Anri is completely isolated, stepping into a human world that literally just tried to execute him.
But Anri is highly resourceful. To safely make the journey to the Conclave, he needs a legitimate cover story.
Yes, he does.
And he leverages a past connection, a brief romantic fling he had years prior with a human merchant scholar. Anri uses this connection to secure a spot in a mercenary band that is guarding a traveling caravan heading toward the Frostbacks.
The merchant vouches for him, and Anri is integrated into this gritty mercenary crew. And the irony of this escape route is just incredible.
It really is. I mean, think about it. Anri is fleeing from Chantry zealots who want to burn him for heresy, and his path takes him straight into the absolute biggest Chantry gathering in history.
He's surviving by walking directly into the lion's den.
Hiding in plain sight, protected by the legitimacy of the merchant caravan.
Exactly. But the journey itself is what transforms him from a fleeing fugitive into a leader. Because the road to the Frostbacks is incredibly dangerous.
Right, they get attacked.
Yeah. The caravan is brutally ambushed by bandits. And in the chaos of the skirmish, the original leader of the mercenary band is killed.
So there is a massive leadership vacuum in the middle of a life or death fight.
And this is where Andri's capabilities as a Dalish scout truly shine. He doesn't panic. He steps up, proves his martial skill, and assumes temporary leadership of the entire mercenary band.
He literally orchestrates their defense.
He does. He's the sole reason the caravan actually survives the rest of the journey.
Which fundamentally alters his dynamic with these humans. He isn't just, an elven tag-along who knew the merchant anymore.
No, he is their commander. He bled with them, he protected them, and he kept them alive.
So by the time they reach the Frostback Mountains, these hardened mercenaries have grown fiercely loyal to him.
Fiercely loyal.
And we know what happens at the Frostbacks. The Conclave. The massive magical explosion. The breach tearing the sky open at the Temple of Ashes. And Anri miraculously survives the blast.
Crucially, those surviving mercenary companions, the ones whose lives he saved on the road, they do not abandon him in the ruin.
Right. They accompany him to Haven. They rally around him.
Yes. And this brings us to the most incredible mechanism of Anri's entire journey. We know Anri is bestowed with the title Herald of Andraste.
Yeah.
The conventional history implies it was spontaneous religious fervor from the masses, a divine recognition of his survival.
But the reality of how that title was born is a masterclass in survival tactics.
It really is. The title was actively engineered. These loyal mercenary soldiers, these gritty, pragmatic fighters who followed Anri, they're the ones who deliberately started spreading the gossip.
Wait, they started the rumor?
Yes. They seeded the rumors that Anri was the Herald of Andraste straight out of the ruins.
They created a grassroots public relations campaign.
They absolutely did.
They didn't do it out of some profound divine revelation. They did it to boost his fame and protect their new leader. I mean, think about the mechanics of that.
It makes perfect sense. They knew he was a Dalish elf. They knew he was an outsider in a deeply religious, human-dominated organization, and they knew he was vulnerable.
So what is the absolute best protection you can give a fugitive elf in a Chantry stronghold?
You make him a living saint.
It is brilliant narrative engineering. If Anri is the Herald of Andraste, chosen by the Maker, he becomes entirely untouchable.
Untouchable. The Chantry zealots back in Thanetown who wanted to execute him, they can't touch a holy figure.
And Guard Captain Allen's panicked lies about elven blood magic suddenly mean absolutely nothing against the weight of a divine myth?
Nothing at all. The mercenaries effectively gave Anri the ultimate armor fame and religious reverence.
It makes you reconsider the foundation of everything that follows. I mean, one of Thetis's greatest holy figures is essentially a rebrand created by a bunch of loyal mercenaries who just really respected their boss and wanted to make sure nobody could ever hurt him again.
It forces us to look at the human mechanisms behind grand historical narratives. Anri Lavellan never sought out greatness.
No, he was an elven scout trying to survive a completely unjust death sentence handed down by a cowardly ex-boyfriend who wanted to save his own political skin.
Exactly. He only ended up at the Conclave because he needed a massive crowd to hide in.
He only took the job guarding the caravan because he knew a guy who could get him past the checkpoints.
And he only became the revered herald because his loyal drinking buddies understood how to manipulate human religious fervor to keep him alive.
It completely humanizes the legend. Think about your own life. We love to look back at monumental successes and attribute them to a grand master plan or, divine intervention.
But more often than not, it is about surviving a terrible situation, making pragmatic choices, and relying on the fierce loyalty of the people around you.
Which brings us right back to that flawless marble statue we talked about at the beginning.
Right.
If the foundation of the Herald's legend was actually built on the panicked lies of a free marches guard captain and the exaggerated protective gossip of a few road-weary mercenaries.
It makes you wonder.
Yeah. How much of recorded history is just a pristine cover story for a deeply personal human mistake? Something for you to mull over. Until next time.